which will of course be in Spain as he'll move to Real Madrid in the summer. Front page of Marca, Endrick shines at Wembley, of course, scoring the winning goal in that clash against England at the weekend. What's interesting, what's inevitable when it comes to young players, they are compared to Pelé. And he said, regarding these players, from my experience, you have to give them time and be very cautious. Suddenly there's talk that Endrick can be the new Pelé. Good heavens. That is to put too much pressure on him. At times it generates a lot of stress, a demand that they're not mentally mature enough to deal with. It is doing them a disservice. We need them to let them develop their training process naturally, and the time will come when we have to really demand it from them. But I don't think they are yet prepared to withstand that sort of pressure. Who is, basically? Who is willing to put up that pressure where you're compared to one of the greatest ever from at 17?
It's a little strange coming from the Spanish manager, is it not, talking about an opposition player?
Yeah.
But you know where I stand on this. I'm just amazed. And you know, we talked about a little bit about England, Brazil at the weekend, where Brazil deservedly got the victory, and people saying, "Oh, Kobe Mino coming on, 18, brilliant, fantastic," and we was like, "Hold on, this guy's 17." Do you know what I mean? And these kids are just—it's just incredible. And there is more pressure. We've seen it particularly with Barcelona players this year. The youngsters coming in, Lamine Yamal at 16, Kubarsi at 16. This is incredible. I mean, again, I don't know about you. Certainly, when I was 16, I could not play anywhere other than the youth team at Chelsea. Physically, I could, not only the talent level, and I'm not comparing these guys are supremely talented, but looking at where I was at the time, I could not play anywhere else other than the youth team because I wasn't ready in a football parlance, I wasn't ready in a physical parlance. I couldn't go in with grown men and physically compete. And yet these youngsters, not only do they walk into these world stages, you know, 70, 80, 90,000 crowds, superstars all over the place, physically they're ready, mentally it seems most of them are ready, and the confidence that they have. I mean, he was coming on Endrick was trying 20-yard backheel passes to try and get in. I mean, I'm not suggesting there's no pressure on them and you don't have to give them time. But what I'm saying is youngsters have changed. Their bodies now, I don't know what it is, if it's just if it's the food chain has changed, or if it's the training has changed, or whether they're doing stuff from an earlier age, or whatever it is. These kids are just more ready now than anything I can remember for 30, 40 years. There's the odd exception, like Wayne Rooney at 16.
Yeah. Or Mario Melchiot.
Yeah.
Still at school, of course.
What?
When he played. Didn't you, Mario, when you played for Ajax?
Was you 16?
You were still a youngster.
No.
Like, what?
I think I was 18, you know, turning into 19. But the thing what Greg just said, I think now we're living in a time where, one, I think they're way more developed than our time in the sense of that. But also I feel like coaches are taking more risk. I think at the time when I was there, Ajax was like being seen as a team like, oh, they risk with all those young kids and everything. Now it becomes a normal thing. Dortmund is doing it, Benfica is doing it. You can go to England, I think, like, look, if you look at a Foden, if you look at, you know, like we can call so many young stars, you understand, like a Bellingham, Musiala in Germany, you know, like these are the kind of things where football is now. And I enjoy it because I will always support a young talent that is breaking through. Why? Because I think when I got my chance, I was still at school. I was a school kid. And then, you know, Louis van Gaal came to me and gave me the opportunity to start my first game against AC Milan, what beat Ajax Ajax beat them in the final the year before. And then after that, I'm playing against them, against guys like Maldini, you know, Baresi, you know, like George Weah, you know, things like that as a young boy. When you come in that field, the only thing you have is like what we just talked about, is you have the nerve, but you also have the feeling like this is what I always wanted. And those guys do it even better than what I felt.
Mario, what advice would you give him then? As someone who started quite young, did you gain advice or someone tell you something that resonated with you?
Yeah, you try to learn as much from the most experienced guys around you. I think that's the best thing. And I always say this, when you come in the game and you're a young boy, the best thing advice I can give in any job, this has not to do with football. Don't talk a lot. just take a lot of info in. Because there are guys around you that will guide you in the path and answer the questions that you might have. And sometimes you're scared to ask because you're scared to ask. Like saying to him, like, look, when I come on sometimes, I feel a little bit tired in the beginning. Then, you know, the guy might say to you, take it easy in your warm-up. Don't warm up like a crazy guy, because that's what I did. My debut, I was running like crazy. Then when they called me and said, like, you're going to come on now? My first sprint against Milan, I was tired. I felt like I already played 90 minutes while I was only on for 1 minute. So things like that, I think as a young boy, you have to know that. So I think an experienced guy needs to tell you, take it easy with your warm-up. Warm up good, but don't run too much. Do a lot of running when you're on the field playing against people and not outside when nobody cares about it. I said, okay. And then that's what I did.
But it's incredible when you take a look at Brazil.
I'd hate to have seen you at 16.
Me?
Yeah, I mean, you must have been about 3 feet.
He peaked at 15.
They were peaked at 15 in my career, that was it.
You know when they said it, he'll grow.
Yeah. One day. It's interesting with Brazil and this desperation to have the next Pelé. When I was at Real Madrid 2005, Robinho was the next man. You know, played for Santos. We showed so many reels of all the skills that he had. Came to Madrid, his career went down the toilet. Because mentally, he wasn't there, he wasn't ready.
And which is why I think what De La Fuente is saying is absolutely right. And to be honest, it's not just Brazil. You could look at not just Brazil, and it's not just this sport in football. And I think we have to get away from pressuring these kids to be the next whoever it may be, and allow them to grow into the game, because there's so much that can happen. And there's the line between success and failure grows thinner and thinner the higher up you go. So there isn't much higher to go than Real Madrid. That line is incredibly thin as to whether you make it or not. But when I see this furor over Endrick as the newest of our game superstars, it brings me back to something LeBron James said a couple of weeks ago on crossing his most recent milestone, which I think was 400,000 points or whatever it was recently. And he spoke about commercials that ESPN ran when he was coming out of high school and the pressure that put him under. And while LeBron James has gone on to achieve everything that's been asked of him and so much more, even he, looking back on it, says it's unfair for an 18-year-old to be likened alongside Will Chamberlain and the greats in that sport. And now we're doing the same in ours. It's something that I think we as an industry have to get away from. Allow these kids to be kids. Allow these kids to grow into their game.
But they come from countries that they're so... What's the word? It's so ingrained in the very fibre of their makeup as kids coming through that Argentina, it's a Maradona and a Messi, and it's a Pele for Brazil, and all these, and you know, the mental side of it, and I suppose for these wannabe superstars that they want, it's the same for every position, because at every club we've all seen it. We've all seen players. Many players that have been better than players that have made it, talent-wise.
Yeah.
And have ended up, and they've ended up at a lower league or in a different business. We've all seen it. We've all seen, well, he's better than him. The guarantee he's going to make it and he's not. And then it was the opposite way around.
Right.
I saw it a load of times coming through the youth team at Chelsea, and then I saw it later on at Celtic and at Chelsea, where you looked at players and you go, wow. And then you thought, my God, if he can take that from the training ground onto the field, we're on a winner here. And 50% of them cannot.
Yeah.
Because when people start howling at you, it's the mental side of it. Do you cope with it? Do you get on with it? Can you handle it? Or do you crumble? Now, for these kids that have got the pressure of the Pelés and others, it's even more so. But for every player coming through, the mental side of it is almost as equal as the talent side of it.
So it's Spain against Brazil at the Santiago Bernabeu tomorrow. Then on Sunday at the Bernabeu, big game in La Liga. Real Madrid taking on Athletic Club. That match live on ESPN Plus. Preceding that, at Montjuic, it's Barca against Las Palmas. Things kick off on Friday with Cadiz against Granada. All those games live on Plus.